Welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the 14th day of March 2022. In the sporting world, we say it is Commonwealth Day, and a happy Commonwealth Day to you. My name is Daniel Wahome, and conversations around sport continue even as we keep up with the news that is happening all around the country, as we've got number one, the first day of the KCSE examinations that's happening all around the country. And also today happening in Nairobi, we've got the launch of the Environment and Land Users Committee by the Chief Justice Martha Koome. That's Ben Troenjo is our reporter. The Interfaith Council this morning held a meeting and they gave directions on how places of worship will be accessed. Full capacity is accepted. Weddings and funerals, you may have, what you'd call going back to normalcy, but they've insisted, number one, on hand hygiene and equipment used. They have to take a look at factors of hygiene to do with that. Plus, also, they have said that at places of worship, they will expect that all those who attend services or prayers at the various places of worship will have their masks on. And they have said they encourage vaccination, but will not keep checking on the vaccination status. That is the report and the recommendations that were given by the chair of the Interfaith Council, Archbishop Anthony Muheria. Purity Museo is our reporter. And the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, is going to be giving the 2021 NGOs sector report as we enter NGOs week. This is happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, and Timothy Kipdusu is our reporter at that event. So that's our news outlook that we have got going for this time. Well, next, a conversation we have to skip and bring this forward is a conversation about table tennis. In the previous interview, we mentioned that table tennis is one of the qualification sports for the Commonwealth Games. And the Kenya Table Tennis Association, they held their trials, national trials, the first one, which is going to be taking place every month. It's not that easy for the players who knew that some of their slots were already secured. It's going to be different. And to have that conversation, we're going to be having from my immediate left, Sejal Takar. She is Kenya's top lady player for quite some time, still going strong. Sejal, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we've got Coach Kennedy Otieno. Thank you, Coach. It's a pleasure to have you again.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And one young man who's been, you had us mention about the Olympic Solidarity Scholarship. He has benefited from it. He's trained in Europe and also has had opportunities to play against the best all around the world. Brian Mutua, welcome.
Thank you.
And let me start with you, Coach, before I come to the athletes. Is this process that we saw happen over the past 3 days, where you had picked players from all over the country, tell us how it started from the grassroots before you now settled on those players who are competing for the 10 slots, 10 men and 10 women in the national table tennis setup.
Thank you so much, Wahome. Kenya Table Tennis has 8 branches, and each branch are like the former provinces. So you have Eastern, Western, Central, North Rift, South Rift, Nairobi, and Nyanza. So in each province, in each branch, you have to start from your branch level. They were selecting 2 players from each branch, and it started from the junior, below 17 years and below. 2 players for boys and girls, and then 2 players for senior men and senior women from each branch. And then they came nationally and they compete a round robin tournament that took 3 days, from Friday, Saturday until yesterday, Sunday. So at the end of yesterday, we got 10 players. And it doesn't mean that the 6 players who are remaining were just dropped down. So from the 10 players, they'll be playing monthly competitions. So the top 8 players in the first 8 will remain. But the last 2 players, number 9 and 10, will drop down into the second tier. And the second tier, between number 11 and 16, will play their own round robin. So the first 2 from number 11, between number 11 and 16, the first 2 will come back up to the first tier. So that will be competitive. And if you did not take part in the trials, you still have a chance, because Kenya Table Tennis is intending to do like 4 more tournaments nationally. So if you can take part in these tournaments and perform well, above or below the already seeded players, you'll still have a chance to compete with the national team trials.
So you're talking about 4 more tournaments. Just give an outlook to this, so that outside of the 16 who are picked for this weekend, for last weekend's event, how then do you bring in those who are outside and keep it in numbers where you can pull them easily and they play competitively?
Yes, as I said, the first 10 are the top tier. The last 6 are the second tier. So these are the ones that are coming through tournaments will join the others, the second tier. If they perform well, they become top 2 in the second tier. They'll have to go up to the first tier, and then and then these competitions, depending on the international competition. If the international competition is on March or June or July, and in that month you're in the top 4 or top 5, that month you're the person who will represent the country. And then if the competitions is in August or September, then the very month you play round robin. So the first 5 or the first 6 will represent the national team.
Well, and I'll tell you, it was a weekend where there were upsets when it came to the table tennis setup in the country. And let me come to you, Sejal. You've played for the country at the highest level. You've represented. First, tell us about the current scene when it comes to the women's part of the sport in the country.
Thank you for having us. For me, yes, it's been a while since I last represented, which was in 2018 Commonwealth Games in Australia Gold Coast. And then COVID hit, the pandemic came through. It was difficult for everyone. Then once I realized that, okay, now the this year's Commonwealth Games are coming up, I was deciding, what to do for myself. And got some guidance from the association. And I decided to give it one last shot before I officially retire. So I was part of the trials, and what I've seen with the women's team is definitely very encouraging. I'm really happy to see improvement in the game, both in the juniors and in the seniors, actually, with women and the girls. So there is good scope, and I think they've really done well for themselves.
Well, I'm just trying to look at some of the results from the outcome. When you are sweeping through these players, where do you see that the women who are currently playing need to get more active on, from your experiences playing at the Commonwealth Games, Africa, at the African level, the African Games? Where should we be?
So from what I've seen is, as I said, I see an improvement. There are a few things that I think the women can actually work on. Number one would be, table tennis is a fast game, so a lot of stamina, a lot of speed, skill, strength, and spirit, most of all, the fighting spirit that, once you're on the table, you just have to be there, and you just want it badly, yeah. So sometimes I think if they can have a little bit of improvement in all these areas, for sure it'll up the game. I'm not saying it's not there, but just a little bit of guidance, and I'm sure they'll be there. Yeah.
And let me come to you, Brian, and you are the beneficiary of an Olympic Solidarity Scholarship. Just tell us the process of how you got into it and what the experiences have been, having been, getting training and, not just on the game, but as an athlete through the IOC.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I got lucky, and I managed to get the scholarship, and I went to Denmark for a 1.5 months training, and I would say that I saw quite an improvement in my game, especially in terms of my techniques, because there are so many professional coaches out there. So I got to change a lot of my techniques, and also got to play with so many different players. So I would say I improved a lot, and it helped me. And also when I came back, I got to train with some of my teammates, and I think I also helped them in one way or another. Yeah.
What were some of the things that you saw that working with the coaches in Denmark that helped you improve your game? You can use a hand movement to demonstrate how you play with the bat and that.
Okay, like normally when I was playing before I went to Denmark, I used to have a long stroke, especially with my backhand. I used to maybe remove my hand from below, like my upper body. So the first thing I went there, I was corrected, was just use my arm to play like a shorter stroke. So I used to remove my arm from, like just right in front of my stomach. So that was the first correction I had, like especially with my backhand. So I think in terms of techniques,
you look more like a tennis one, like a long tennis.
Yeah, at first it was a longer stroke. So yeah, after I got trained and also corrected, it became a shorter stroke. Yeah.
Another one.
Also my service reception. Normally I used to chop like just a defensive return or most of the services. So the first thing I was told, you're not supposed to return all the services. You can just flick, even slow or just a faster one, but not all balls you should just return safely, because most of the opponents out there internationally, they're so good in attacking. So I was told to be the one to initiate attack most of the time. Yeah.
Actually, yes, Kennedy.
Yes.
You want to weigh in on that? That whole mindset of playing defensively vis-a-vis playing, being the one.
It's true. If you want to compete internationally as a professional in table tennis, you have to be the one to initiate the attack all the time, whether you're receiving or serving. So that is the last technique that he learned, and it has really improved his game in particular, as well as the game of the teammates and the national team that he's been training with. Apart from that, due to that, in the African games, in the African Championship that we took place in Yaoundé, Cameroon, the previous year, we managed to be position 9 for men out of 21 teams. It has never been that in the past. And for women, they were position 14 out of 26 in Africa. So I think this ranking is what, when the international table tennis look at it, they may give us a chance to participate or to take part in the Commonwealth Games, because we stand a bigger chance in the eastern region of Africa, where we belong.
So Giles, the Cameroon, the African Championship outcome, what have you seen, being in the top half continentally? Well, at times we just wait for that simple email from Ateka and say, oh, okay, where do we place this?
So I wasn't actually part of the African Championships because I had some prior commitments. But from what I saw, and as I said, after the comeback, the level and the game performance at what the time it was and what it is now is definitely on an improvement. You can see the result and the positioning of the women team. If it has gone up, then obviously it shows that there is improvement. The girls played well, they tried their best, and I think there's good scope in the future.
And competitively in Africa, you could take us through, I think 4 years back, Kenya hosted the top 16 championship. Kenya, I think Brian and Sejal, you were in that competition by virtue of Kenya being the host, and they brought in 15 of the best players in Africa. Tell us about how good those who are there are, considering that, for example, in the Commonwealth Games here, Nigeria and Egypt are expected to field players.
Yeah. So in Africa, of course, the top-notch players still come from Nigeria and Egypt, both in the men and the women category. So they're very hard to defeat. They play, I think, more regularly. They have got more, international coaching and experience as well. So we, of course, found it quite challenging, but I think we tried our best at that time. And, it was really good exposure for the country to have them, and to host was extremely important. It was a big help. A lot of players from Kenya had come together to watch and learn. And I think it was a very good initiative by the government to even, allow us and to host the games.
Brian, that's the time you were taking up the Olympic Solidarity Scholarship, and you were mobbing us. And there was a whole gang from JKU that had their own corner at Kasarani. What was it like playing with that kind of noise and the caliber of players you were facing at that point?
Okay, personally, I will say it was the first tournament that I played, like the biggest or a tournament I've played, the biggest at the highest level, because I got to play one of the best players in Africa, Kwadri Aruna, and to me, I was just 19 years of age, and it was quite a privilege having to play a guy like that at that moment. And considering the fact that I was playing at home, it gave me a lot of confidence, and I think I performed well, considering I don't train like those guys, because those guys play this game professionally. They get to train every day. They have professional coaches. So I think I took it as more of a learning process, and I think it helped me a lot in later tournaments.
How did it change your perspective of facing high-level opponents, given that there was that round-robin phase before you got into the knockouts?
First, it increased my confidence in playing, because at first I was so nervous playing, and at that big stage, and also the crowd also there, and also I was nervous, and also I didn't have that confidence to play against most of the top players, because I went in most of my games as an underdog. Yeah, so I just had to fight and also give my best. Yeah.
Well, Kennedy, you've seen all that change.
Yes.
And how are you picking the lessons from the high-level competitions and sending them down to the grassroots so that there is a consistent, pattern that comes through the table tennis ranks?
During that Africa Top 16, most players turned up in Kasarani from the entire country, as well as the entire part of Eastern Africa, because that tournament really opened our eyes on how we train, how the nutrition we do, be on and off the table. Yes. How we prepare for tournaments or for matches. It really changed a lot. And after that, that's why Kenya has really risen to the ranks, because we saw the game in a different way. Maybe initially we were playing for leisure, but now we just wanted to compete like these other guys.
Okay, I'll be very specific. Let's start number one with the nutrition. How did that change?
You cannot just eat anything as an athlete. But initially we were just eating anything and going to play. Number two, you cannot just...
Okay, what is off the menu now?
What is off the menu is too much carbs. Too much carbs. Now we are interested in low fat, low carbs, ketos, and more of protein. Yeah, more of protein. Because they build part of the endurance as muscles in your body.
Right. Number two, how you train.
Yes, how we train. Initially, we were going to training, but we did not have accurate and correct plan of what we are training, because we're just going to training. After 1 hour, we just say 0-0, we start the games. But now we sat down with some of the top players, and we asked them what they're doing. They say that we just plan to play 1 hour backhand block, backhand attack, on close to the table, away from the table, movement before you play games. Service, you can just learn service for 1 hour and you go home, and service reception as well. So this is what we are trying to incorporate in our practices every now and then.
What about the fitness regime?
Yeah, nowadays we do strength and conditioning as part of the national team. It's a must. If you're in the camp or if you're in the national team, you have to doing strength and conditioning training every now and then. But initially we never used to do that. It was just one person's initiative to make sure his or her health is fit. But nowadays it's incorporated.
Sejal, what Kennedy is talking about, when these little things started being introduced, how were they received? And because I know very at times when some of these little things are introduced, athletes at times wonder, okay, what's going on? And it's only later that they say that was a good move. What was the experience?
I think every day is a learning curve. So if we've learned from the best, and they have noticed everything, they have seen it with their own eyes, it's coming in naturally and slowly. I see players now even making the effort of warming up before a match begins, which is very important.
You just used to get onto the
Yeah,
into the mat and start playing?
No, they don't. That's what I'm saying. They warm up a little bit before, you know, physically as well. You know, they do a couple of stretches here and there. They go out for a small jog. You know, they warm the bodies up before just going on the table. We could see that not everyone was doing that initially, and now from the recent trials that were held, I think most of the players now have that understanding of how important it is to warm up and to do your stretches before and after a match. So it's coming in gradually, but it's definitely into play.
Brian, let's talk about what was going on over the weekend. And, you know, when there is the whole story that Brian is the one person who's going to sweep everyone, but he lost to, you know, Peter the Orient at that. What was, you know, first of all, the reaction at the hall at the One Institute, and for you, a total, you know, refocus as you went into day 3 of action?
Okay, I think the match. Okay, when I got into the match, I think I started a bit slow, and he was confident, and I think he at the moment he played his level best, and because when I started the match, most of how I play, it wasn't working, so he went he took an advantage of that, and the results came. He won 3-1, and I think it wasn't quite a surprise, especially how he has been training and how he played in the tournament. So I think it was a difficult game, but the results wasn't so much a surprise to me. Yeah.
Okay, can you analyze Peter Muturi, please? Because you say how he has been training. Let's give us an example of how your teammate now prepares for this major tournament.
Okay, he's a member of the Oswald Table Tennis Club. He trains at Oswald, and I think he usually trains Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And recently he has been training a lot and consistently with the national team coach. So I think that has been of great help to him, and I think it has improved his game a lot. Yeah.
Kennedy.
Yes.
A whole assessment of the 10 who are there, and putting into perspective what Brian is talking about.
It's true about Peter. Initially, he used to have one system of play. So people had mastered his way of playing, that he only defends with backhand, he does not attack with forehand. But now, recently, he started attacking, and it looked like a surprise shot. So people were like, he can't attack the second one or the third one. And he was consistent. He was so consistent and confident with attacking with forehand. And that is what gave him the win over most people in that tournament. He finished third.
And Brian, what wasn't working for you? Because you said not anything you tried was not working.
Yeah, I think I made a lot of mistakes with my backhand service reception, and also with my forehand service reception. And I think that's where the difference was. Because normally, I usually have a lot of confidence with my backhand reception, the backhand flick, but when I got into the game, I had a lot of mistakes. I think that's what didn't work for me, and he took advantage of that, and he managed to get 2 sets. He went 2-1 ahead of me. So,
yes.
Yep.
And let me come to the women's game. And you played against Nafla Barasa, Becky Maisan, this Sachita, Rufina Bahati. Take us through this women's team that you're playing against, because we know table tennis is not that wide sport.
Yes.
You know that everyone basically knows each other.
Yes.
So, yeah, take us through your teammates.
So we had a couple of really good women players. I saw, like, to just give you an example, Bahati, I have traveled with her in the past in one of the All African Games, and at that time I think she was younger, and now I see more maturity. I could see control, I could see focus in the game. So she actually is to me an upcoming player for sure. To that effect, there were some other players like Lisa who has a different technique of a game. So she uses an anti-spin bat, which gave trouble to many of us, myself included. But so she's got very good control, and she knows her game. And these are the few upcoming players that I see, who could be the future top players in the ladies team for sure.
Okay, I've heard you say anti-spin bat.
Yeah.
Just describe that.
So basically, it's a pimpled bat, and the effect of it's like a dead rubber. And in table tennis, it's allowed. It's not prohibited. And if the player is able to control that bat, it's very different, because very few players in Kenya have that kind of technique. So when you're training with a normal player, you'd be very good, but if you now face an anti-spin bat, because of lack of playing with them regularly, you could have trouble. And what happens is, because of the rubber is different, it gives an opposite effect. So for example, if you're chopping the ball and the return comes, it's like a flat, so all the strokes are given an opposite effect to the bat.
So what you're simply saying is, this is the bat and this is a ball. The ball is spinning this way.
Yeah.
The effect is, the spinning is put to an end.
Yes.
It's a break.
Yeah. It's a break.
Yes.
It's a break.
Yeah.
And so the ball comes back
with a different spin.
With a different spin.
With a different spin.
Yeah.
So if it was doing this, naturally, how should you respond if it's spinning backwards?
So when you're chopping she returns it comes as a float. And when you serve a flat serve, it comes back as a chop. So there's total concentration required on the game. They even have the ability to flip the bat whilst playing. So you have to really concentrate, which side of the bat she's using, the red side or the black side, whichever side is anti-spin. So it requires, I think, double the attention and focus on the table, so which is quite,
Kennedy, this is where I want you to come in and talk about, investing in the right equipment. I know it's a big challenge in this country.
Sure.
Let's start with the bat, because Sejal has mentioned about that anti-spin bat. And, we are used to bats that, are as smooth as this paper.
Sure.
What's the right way to do it?
Right now, if you are competing as a profession, we just need to have to use the professional rackets. And these rackets are assembled. You buy the wood differently, as well as the rubbers, and then you stick them together to form a racket. And it also depends with your style of play. As she's saying, that girl has a defensive style of play with backhand, while attacking with forehand. So it also depends with the person's style of play, so that we get them the right and correct equipment depending on how they play. Yes.
Now let's move on to the other one, the playing surface. What we play on normal floors here, but when you get to the international level, you play on a mat.
Yes.
How, what are the possibilities, of having the right playing surfaces coming?
Apparently, the Kenya Table Tennis has the playing area that was used in Kasarani. So if you make it to the national team, you have to get the pleasure of playing in that playing area and getting used to.
They were the first to play on it, actually.
Yes. It's a very good playing area, and it gives you good time for take on and take off before you move on the table.
Now, also, table tennis is played within an enclosed area.
Yes.
There is how much room you have away from the table. How do you, then get this? The players who are here get used to playing within a restricted zone, because at times you can go for a school's competition and you find that it's almost open. I mean, there is no limit to how far out you can go.
It also depends with the room or the hall. It also depends on the number of tables that are in the hall. If there are few tables, you can create more room. If there are many tables, you create very little space. But you just have to talk to the players before you start the tournament, and just let them know that this is the amount of space that we're having. Please bear with us. We just have to play with this.
So, yes, that is Kennedy Otieno. He is a member of the coaching team of the national table tennis team. Brian, there was also the boys and girls, who are playing. You are playing mostly in the afternoons. From your experiences out there, what kind of outreach are you doing to the young athletes in the country to see that they grow well in the sports?
Okay, I think one thing that we can do to some of these young players is to guide them through what they should do, and also get them in training, because normally most of the players in the country, they don't get the right training especially at a young age. Because some of the players, you find someone you might have trained for more than 5 years, but with the wrong technique. So the first thing is to maybe work on your technique, train them in good technique, train them in how to train in terms of also physical fitness. So I think that's what has been lacking in the past. After I went to Denmark, I saw most of the players, the young players, they were playing so good. You find 15 years boys and girls, but when you go to the table, it's just a tough match for you as a maybe 19 or 20 years old guy.
What are the fitness processes that you had to change, how you train? I have seen how a long distance athlete trains. I've seen how a sprinter trains. It's two different regimes. Yeah. But what about for you?
Okay, for table tennis, I think mostly we usually work on our footwork in terms of speed because it's a very fast game. So what I had to do was to increase my speed, doing more of physical in terms of also gym. I normally go to gym. Also because you need to have power in the core and also in the arm because of how to hit the ball. So I think at first I wasn't going to the gym regularly, so after I came from Denmark I just needed to do that more regularly.
How do you do for footwork? We know boxers do a lot of running and
skipping
and skipping rope. How do you go through yours?
Okay, for footwork, table tennis we use like a ladder. So with the ladder you just have some different exercises you can do with the ladder. So I think that usually helps improve the person with speed, and also it gives you more muscles so that you can be also fast in terms of movement in the table.
Yeah. Well, Sajal, for you, you say this is one final gap that you want to work around. What's the process now for, with your experience, getting your coaching badges and beginning to impact downstream?
So I would say that the ball has already started rolling since the past year. My sister and myself have been trying to, and we've opened a small academy whereby we're teaching very, very young kids between the age of 5 and 9 how to do the basics of the sport, how to hold the bat correctly, because it all boils down to the core of the sport, how you educate the kids on holding the bat correctly, how the stance should be, how you should be, bending down. Of course, a lot of physical and mental help as well in a way that, and to make the game fun, because, kids of nowadays are so much into their phones and all, that it's very hard for them to come out. So to make the sport more a happy place, not just training at that age on a serious level, we're trying to balance it so that they can enjoy the sport and get the interest in it. So currently we have this small academy running, and also I have joined the national coach Fad Daim at the Oshwal complex as well. On weekends I go and help him to train the kids there as well.
Where is the academy based?
The one that I'm doing, it's at our Lohana Majan Mandal Hall. It's a community hall, small one. So so far we're just we're starting off with 10 to 8 kids. Because of the pandemic, we're just trying to be a bit careful. But as time flies, we'll see how it goes and make it into a bigger place where everyone would be, welcome to get the experience from us. Yeah.
Bat handling, you mentioned that. And anytime I watch table, there are people who handle their bats. There are those who handle it, 2 fingers here. There are those who handle it, and they'll hold it. They'll grip it this way, and they have it on the face. Others have got 2 fingers here. Just take us through that, the various ways of gripping that bat.
Well, the right way of actually holding a bat is the shake hand grip. How do you shake a hand with
like
a person?
This, yes.
And then the thumb goes on in the middle of the other side, and this finger goes on the other side, basically. So it's mainly the shake hand grip that we encourage, and that's the right way. We don't have players here who hold a pen hold grip like the international players and all. So for here, I think that's the shake hand grip. It correctly for the little kids. That's what we're teaching them. Yeah.
So that it grows into them. And what about transitioning from the hand to
pen hold?
To the pen hold.
what would you say to that? As I said, we don't have players. You know, the kids here, the ones that I'm teaching, especially between 5 and 9, you are teaching them how to hold the bat. So we're not really encouraging the pen hold, because I don't have the expertise to teach them the pen hold way, and not many players here actually use that. I think none. Very few. Maybe some Chinese who come, you know, and just play with us sometimes have that, you know, strategy and that skill. But in Kenya, I don't think none of us have that grip.
Sure. It all boils down on how you learned from the beginning. If your coach was holding with the shake hand, that's how you should play. Because very few players, in fact, non-competitive player in East Africa now is using pen hold. There used to be one Ugandan initially, like 10 years ago. He was called Wahaha. He was the only one who was using pen hold grip.
And let's now, from the boys and the girls who are there, what's the message that you would like to be sent back to the schools and the development system, such that there is a pathway? Knowing very well that we've got the Africa Youth Games this year, it's an opportunity for Kenya to have a table tennis team, as you know, they prepare also for Dakar 2026, such that everyone knows that 3 years from now, 3-4 years from now, these are the kind of players who will be there.
The system boils down the same as that we said from the trials. It's monthly. But now that the schools, when the schools are on, we'll do letters, and maybe they'll play after 2 months or after 3 months. But now when they are closed, they just do monthly competitions, so that we have fine players to be taken to Ethiopia for the African Youth Games.
Actually, Egypt. This time around, Ethiopia lost their hosting rights. Yes, so it's going to be Egypt from around the 28th of August. That's when we shall have the games. And from the youth coaches, the Table Tennis Association has been running something known as Tucheze Table. What has been the community response, Kennedy?
It was rolled down in 2 parts of the country. In Nairobi, it was in Mathare, the conjunction with MISA, Mathare Youth Sports Association, and the other part of the country was in Kitale, where most of the junior players in the country and most of the women team have come from. So it's still going on well. Most of the juniors, like 90% of the juniors who qualified in the previous trials, they're from Kitale. That's why Kenya Table Tennis donated 2 tables after the qualifications to go to Kitale as part of appreciation for what the young coaches are doing in Kitale.
Yeah, and it's easy to mention the school, St. Joseph's
and St. Monica's.
And St. Monica's, what it does. Brian, let me come to you and have a conversation about the competition in the men's game in Africa. A lot of activity. We know we're headed into another year next year when we are going to have the African Games. What's the scene like at the moment? You can start with East Africa and go to the continent.
Okay, I think in East Africa, I think Kenya has been performing well, but coming to the Africa at large, I think that's where the competition comes in, because most of the players who play in Egypt, Nigeria, most of them play this game professionally. So I will say there's still a big gap in the game style, and I think that's what we should work on improving and also reducing the gap, because it still was a big gap when we went to the past competitions in Cameroon and also in Tunisia. Yeah, so I think there's still a gap. Yeah.
Tell us about Cameroon, because it's the most recent one. What were your experiences from, and how much do you see of an improvement from your side, given that out of the 21 countries, Kenya was 9th?
Okay, comparing Cameroon to other previous tournaments, I think that was the tournament where we performed well as a country, and I think most of the players played their level best against the top countries also. We managed to play, we played against Egypt, against Ghana, and also South Africa, and I think we performed quite well considering how those guys play. But Egypt, we didn't win against Egypt, because I think Egypt, they have so many good players. Yeah.
And what about Ghana and South Africa? What was the outcome?
We managed to beat South Africa. We lost to Ghana 3-1, but I will say it was a close match. And I think we just we had some mistakes which I think we corrected in our match against South Africa, and I think that's what gave us the victory.
Well, and at the moment, if you were to be told right now, Giles, let's start getting ready for the Commonwealth Games, and you're told you have to compete, which teams would you look out for, even knowing that probably you wouldn't be at full luck? You know, at times you may not win every game, but they will give you the kind of competition you need. And some names, if you have them.
Obviously, the best players are from Nigeria and Egypt for Africa. For the other countries, I think Algeria have very young players. I don't recall their names as much, unfortunately, but so the way I see things happening now in the Commonwealth Games is a lot of youngsters are coming into play. People, you know, so the names that I can't relate to, and I think they are all playing professionally at that age, and they're given a lot of support from the school, the unis, and the government, and everyone else, the parents probably, and so it's on another level, and the way the game has come up with the youngsters is amazing, and I'm sure it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but we'll just have to try our best and see, you know, where we fare.
Brian, actually, she's mentioned about universities. At JKUAT, and the universities have got their sports association. What's the situation at the moment with the sport at that level? We can see in rugby, we can see where the teams are, where they've reached. Hockey is coming up to become something different. Basketball, there's something also we see. What about table tennis?
In the universities, I think the competition is still stiff because most of the players who participated in these trials, most of them are in campus. So I think these are the players that we get to meet in each university competition. And I think so it's not the first time you're playing against these players. So the competition is still on, and the competition is still the same against these players.
Is it an exclusive club of players here in the top 10?
Not really, because it has really changed. It has really changed, apparently, because initially the people who were in top 10, some of them did not manage to be there around 4.
Around. Yeah. So yeah, how are you seeing it growing at universities? I know there's a lot of opportunity and facility, as much as they're basic. You could finish up on that and say how it's evolving.
Okay, I think the game in the universities is improving because of most of the players who are completing high school. They are coming to the universities, and their game is still quite good. So those are players who are bringing in more competition to also the other older players. Yeah.
All right. And Kennedy, yes. Now the tough part for you and for Sejal, now that you're part of the coaching team, is preparing for the Commonwealth Games. It's dependent 100% on how they play. So you may have as player coach Brian really would not want to miss out on that event on the Commonwealth Games again. What's the pathway from what you saw over the weekend before you hold the next trials in April and you promote and relegate?
The pathway is the player should continue practicing, because if you do not practice and you're in the top 10 now, come the end of next month you may not be there. So consistent practice will give you to elevate your game and maintain your position in the national team. So by the time you go to the African Games, we have the right players who have the right mantle to take these other people who are playing in the African Games. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to take part in the African Games.
So much focus on the singles game. What about the doubles game?
I think now after the trials, we'll have a little bit of time to even focus on the doubles, the mixed doubles, the team events. We have a lot of games, Commonwealth Games in table tennis, especially begin from day 1 till the last day. So it is quite taxing, and it requires a lot of endurance and willpower, perseverance to be able to sustain so many days of play at each category, you know, whether it's singles or doubles or mixed doubles. So I think right now, after the trials are over, I think we'll put a little bit of more focus and attention to playing this doubles as well, because coordination between players is and your partner, especially mixed. So I played mixed doubles with Brian, is also important. You know, you need to train that aspect as well to be able to then go there and compete comfortably, knowing your player well. Yeah, so I think right now, within this few months, we should be able to focus on that too.
Global competitions available for you in between now and July, Coach?
Apparently, no, I've not heard of anything.
And for you, Brian, the opportunities you'd like to hop on at any point?
Okay, I always have a dream, and is to play this game professionally, and I think I'll still work on that because that has always been my goal. And I think having a chance to go to training in Denmark opened my eyes on how this game is played and the level of play out there.
All right. Brian Mutua, he is a member of the national table tennis team. Thank you very much for being with us. And we've got Kennedy Tiano. He's a member of the coaching team at table tennis Kenya, and Sajal Takar. She's played for Kenya and she's coming to the twilight of her career, but is also part of the coaching team. Thank you very much. And like you say in your sport, to chase a table. Thank you very much. And also would like to apologize that we were not able to link up with the World Indoors team at Riyadh House due to a technical hitch and also some logistical matters that they had to deal with according to the playbook for the World Indoor Championships that will be taking place in Belgrade, Serbia from the 18th to the 20th of March. That is Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And the World Indoor Championships will be broadcast on KBC Channel 1. On behalf of the team that put together this bulletin and you, a viewer, for being with us for the past 2 hours, I want to say thank you very much. Coming up next, Kurunzi ya Mashinani with Zainab Said, and after that, our interview program in Swahili, Tamrini.